Hey everybody, this is Alex here with Mobius Venture. In this video we're going to be looking at how to install a light bar and some spotlights on a Jeep. Now if you look behind me you can see that I have already got my light bar and spotlights installed on the Jeep. I had some friends help me with it. I was a little unsure with some of the wiring and things, what all needed to be done, so I had a friend from Kilobyte DIY here on YouTube, that's his channel. I had his help install this, and so I've already got it installed, but I'm going to go through step by step everything that we did and explain it, and hopefully that will be helpful for some of you guys out there who, like me, previously had no idea how to install and do all the wiring and things like that. First things first though, I want to show what you're going to need in order to do this. All right, so here we have everything laid out on Moby's front bumper, everything that we used in this install. And of course we had the light bar, the spotlights, and the brackets to hold them up. Of course you're gonna need those as well. But after that, this is everything that we used in this install. We have 12 gauge wire, red and black. We probably only needed 14 gauge, but 12 gauge is a little bigger, just that's what we used. We used 12 gauge. Depending on how much stuff you're setting up, how many lights, is going to tell you how much feet you need. These are just examples for you, but if you're just going to do one light bar, then 12 feet, red and black each, is probably going to be plenty for you. If you're setting up something crazy, 2 light bars and 6 spotlights and all that stuff, you're going to need more than 12 feet, and you'll need both red and black. Or I guess you could get blue and white and green, but red and black is standard. You're going to need these wire splice connectors, are also called butt connectors, to connect the wires together. You're going to need some ring terminals for your ground wires. You're going to need a wire crimper and cutter and stripper. You're going to want electrical tape. Now, I guess technically you could set all this up and not use this, but you're going to want electrical tape. And you don't have to have this, but I also used liquid electrical tape in a couple of places just for a really nice tight seal and weatherproofing. And I'll show you where we use that in a moment. You don't need this, but it is useful sometimes, and just a little bit of extra protection. So there is that option. It's not expensive. You can pretty much get all of this stuff at Lowe's or Home Depot or Walmart. Now, you might not be able to find these at any one of those stores. It just kind of depends on what your store that's in your town carries. I know that I live in not a city, but a fairly large town, and we have multiple Walmarts, and some of the Walmarts here carried some of the stuff and some of them didn't. So just check out your stores in your area, Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, Harbor Freight maybe, some of those places, and see what they've got. You might be able to find some of the stuff at an auto store near you. But this is everything we used. Not super hard to find. You just got to look for it. Okay, so let's take a look at actually what we did installing our lights. So the first step in installing your lights is actually getting the lights mounted up on the vehicle. Now we use these X-Bright brackets, and we have an unboxing video on that as well if you want to go check that out. We use these X-Bright brackets here, and these brackets came with, not only do they hold the light bar up top, but they also have a little prong that comes out right here to hold some spotlights or floodlights or whatever kind of lights that you want to put on there, which is one of the reasons why I chose the X-Bright, is because they have this extra little prong down here for mounting other things. Now on the brackets, I would just say it would be a good idea to go ahead and order some longer screws, some longer bolts once you mount this, because once you mount a bracket here, you've just increased the length that the bolt has to travel to get into the threads. And we probably could have used the original bolts that were already on the Jeep, but I would have not been comfortable with that. It would have been down to the last threads on each of these bolts holding this bracket up, and this is a fair bit of weight. I mean, this is all metal, and then the weight of the lights too. So I would just say that it would be a good idea to go ahead and order some extra long bolts for mounting the bracket to the Jeep. You can get those on Amazon. That's where I got mine. I ordered 2 sets. The particular ones that I ordered came with, I think it was 6 bolts in there. Now these X-Brite brackets, you only use 5 of them, so I had 1 left over from each. And then of course I had the original bolts left over. But these X-Brites have 3 here on the outside, and then they also have 2 here underneath. And I know you can't see those because this light's in the way, but there was 2 up here as well. So of course the first thing that you got to do is get the brackets mounted. And then after that, you can go ahead and mount your light bar and your lights here, okay? Now, we're gonna go ahead and talk about the wiring coming off of the lights here while we're over here before we look inside the engine bay. So on my light bar, the wire comes off of the right side, which I thought was interesting. On most light bars that I see, it comes off the left side, but this one came off the right side. So the wiring hangs down to, the wire that comes off the light bar hangs down to about where this light is. And then it just ends, and it has 2 little terminals, a red and a black. And that's where you have to have your own wire to connect that to the switch pod or whatever mechanism you're using to turn it on. So it came down to about there, and this is where we're going to need some of our tools that we looked at and some of the things we looked at just a moment ago on Moby's bumper. So we're gonna talk about that. All right, you guys, so here we're looking at the wiring that comes off the light bar, and then we've also got the wiring that comes off this spotlight. You can see here that this wire running down right here comes from the light bar, and the wire that came off the light bar ended about right here. So this wire was already integrated into the light bar. It comes off, but it doesn't go very far. It kind of hung to about right here. And on the end of it, we had a little red and black wire coming off, and that was where we're going to connect our red and black wire. Now I just cut these just to show you what I'm talking about. And so what we had to do is take our red and black wire and connect it to, we had to connect the black wire, which is your ground wire, to either the negative terminal on the battery or to the chassis for grounding. And then the red wire, the live wire, goes to the S-Tech pod, which is over on the other side of the engine bay. So we had these wires coming off. Now on the wires that were coming off of the light bar, I believe the copper was already exposed. It may not have been, I don't remember, but I think it was already exposed. So we didn't have to strip that. But on the wire that we connected to it, we did have to strip it, okay? So you get your wire crimper, cutter, stripper, and your wires, and you strip the end so that the metal is exposed. So you get that stripped, and then you're going to have this one coming off along with the red one coming off up here, and you're going to take your black wire that you have and stripped it, and you are going to use a 12 gauge butt connector to connect the 2 wires together. And you want to make sure that the metal of the wire goes all the way into the metal inside. You might turn these a little bit just to make sure it goes in. Get those together, and then you're going to use your crimper and crimp those together. And then your wire is connected. Now you will also do this again for the red wire. Okay, so you're going to have a red wire and a black wire coming off, and then you're going to connect your blacks together, and you're going to connect your reds together. And from here, the way that you run the wires through and into the engine compartment is you're actually going to lift up this piece right here. You're going to unscrew these, and you're going to just lift it up. This isn't going to come off because we have the windshield wipers in the way, but you're just going to lift it up and feed the wires through and under this compartment. We have ours up a little bit. Some people have them running down through here, and then this will come into the engine bay. or there are a couple of other ways that we'll talk about when we look inside the engine bay. The other thing that you're going to want to do before we leave this area and open up the hood is you're going to want to make sure that you put electrical tape around your wires so that water can't get into the connectors and these can't fall out and all that kind of good stuff. They shouldn't fall out because you crimped them together, but just for extra security and protection, you're going to want to go ahead and put electrical tape around the connector, at least around the connector. Now, if you look up here, this is about where the two black and the black and red wire split is right here. And I went ahead and just duct taped first I duct taped the connectors, and then I duct taped both the red and the black together so that it's all one bundle going down into the engine bay. And it makes it look cleaner. It looks nicer. It's uniform. Everything's black up here, and it's not an eyesore, but it also keeps the weather out. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and pop the hood now and show you where those wires run from here. And if you're wondering about this spotlight and the other spotlight on the other side, you're gonna do exactly the same thing that you did for the light bar. And so it's, you know, whatever lights you're running, you're going to have to do this process connecting the wires for every single one of the lights. For each light, you're going to have a red and a black coming off. Your black is going to be your ground. Your red is going to be your live one. So this process, once you know how to do it for one of them, you just rinse and repeat for each light that you have hooked up. So we're going to go ahead and pop the hood and look inside and show you the wiring and how we ran that in there. So here we have Moby's hood popped, and just to give you an initial idea, if you haven't watched the S-Tech install, here's the control box, and where we're connecting our wires to is right here. This is coming off of the control box for the S-Tech switch pod, and these are our connectors, and you can see the two that we have used so far. One of these is for the light bar, the other one is for both of the spotlights. And so this is where we're getting it to, and you can see our red wires coming off here. So we were looking at running those light bar wires into the engine bay. And so the light bar wire is one of these red wires coming along the firewall back over here, because the light bar has the wire running off the right side. I think I might have mentioned this before, maybe I didn't, but it seems like most light bars that I see have the wire running off the left side, but for some reason this one has it running off the right. So we talked about how this wire runs up and under this piece right here. Now, once you run it under there, which would be up under here, what we did is we actually fed it back through to this side of this little barrier and then out along here. And you can see two red and two black. Now, again, the reason why there's two red and two black is because we had a red and black coming off the light bar, and we had a red and a black coming off this. So that's where those 4 wires are coming from instead of just 2, one of each. We have 2 of each. So we fed it up underneath this piece and then back through and out along, and then we zip tied it right here. And that was to keep it from running up under the hood right here. Or along underneath it there. Didn't really want it right here. There's clearance here for closing the hood, but I just wasn't comfortable with that, so we ran it along the side, and it gave us something to zip tie to. There's nothing connected right here, and there's already a little hole right here for us to put that zip tie through. We ran it through. We had some extra wire after we connected it, so I kind of shoved the extra down here, ran it along the firewall, the red one that is, and connected it to that switch pod terminal. Now, the end of the switch pod terminal is just one of these, so we just had to crimp it down and then put some electrical tape around it. Now, that's the red wire, the live wire. Now, for the ground wire, we ran that right through over here, underneath this, and then to the battery. Now, connecting it to the battery is where you are going to need your ring terminal connectors, okay? Now, these are essentially just butt connectors with a ring on one side. So you put your black wire in one side, in the open side, and you crimp it down with your tool, wrap some electrical tape around it, and then connect it to your negative terminal of the battery. Not the positive one, the negative one. Now, if you have a spot where you could connect it to the chassis, you could do that as well. Like, for example, there are some actually over here. You can see where some wire coming from somewhere, the negative is connected to the frame, the chassis here. We've got another couple connected right there. I just went ahead and connected it to the negative battery terminal because it was right here and we already had the wires right here. One of those two, either the negative terminal of the battery or the chassis. So that is the wiring coming off of this right side. Our live wires, again, running, zip tied them to the firewall, got them over there to the S-Tech connector, and then our ground wires running through right here to this negative end of the battery terminal. Now, for the light that's on this side, the spotlight, obviously we're not going to run it all the way along there. We did basically the same thing, ran it through right here, ran it again under and through the side right here, and we ran the positive to this right here, the connector, and we ran the negative on this side. Instead of running it all the way across to the battery, we did what we were just talking about. We just connected it to the chassis, and this is it right here for that light. Now, when we connected the two spotlights together, because we want them on the same light, we had to connect them together. And so what we did was we got an extra big sized butt connector that would hold both of the wires, and we crimped it down together, and then I used electrical tape and wrapped it all together. So that way we have one wire going into one connector so that one switch will hit both of the spotlights. But the light bar is connected to this one, so they're on two different switches. So for having the S-Tech, that's how we installed that. It's fairly simple. That's pretty much it as far as the wiring goes. Now, I did mention earlier using this liquid electrical tape. The places that I used that is I used it on the ground wires, and you can see a little bit better over here on the ones that are connected to the battery. I just wanted some extra protection around the ends of those ring connectors, and so I use that liquid electrical tape, and then of course it dries hard and just gives you a nice coating on there. That's where I use that, but that's not necessary. You can just use electrical tape. I just used electrical tape everywhere else, and as we talked about earlier, you can see I really wrapped this with electrical tape all the way down until it gets under here, and then you can see the red and black wires. All right, so that's the wiring component of this. Very straightforward, very easy. You just need to get the tools that you need. There are a couple other things I want to talk about just very quickly about this install. I'm very pleased with my lights. I love my brackets. I love the X-Bright. It's got the logo up there. It looks super nice. I did zip tie this wire here to the bracket. There was not enough room underneath to run the wire underneath. Not really, but I just went ahead and zip tied it, and because these holes are here it was easy to go ahead and do that, just to keep it clean up and not have the wire flapping in front of me. Now, I believe actually that these brackets are for a 50-inch light bar, and my light bar is a 52-inch. So it's actually pushing out a little bit, and I'm not sure if you can tell. Yeah, I think you can kind of tell that this top piece right here has a little bit of an outward lean. So, just keep that in mind that, if you get brackets that are for a 50-inch, that 52-inch light bar has another 2 inches, and it's going to be tight. Now, it actually kind of worked out for me because When we were installing these brackets and we didn't have the lights on yet, I was concerned because there's not a whole lot of clearance here. And before we put the light bar in and it kind of pushed the brackets out, it was real close. And so I was considering going and getting some more gasket material and putting some pieces up here, which you might have to do depending on how your brackets fit. But having that little bit longer light bar actually pushed these out, and it's tight. It's so tight that even with just, I mean, some serious resistance, it's not going to touch the Jeep. It's not going to touch the paint. It's not going to scar anything. So it kind of worked out for me. But just keep that in mind. If you're doing a 52-inch light bar, you definitely want brackets that are made for a 52-inch light bar. Mine, you know, like I said, the brackets are set up for a 50, but that's 52 inches. So it pushes out a little bit. But like I said, it worked out for me. These spotlights, I love those as well. They're spot dual combo, spot flood combo, and they're really more flood than they are spot. But I'm loving the light bar, loving the spot flood lights, and that's pretty much it for this video. I hope this was helpful for you guys. Hope you guys, you know, maybe that aren't sure how to install these, not really sure how to do the wiring. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. It's really simple. Once you figure out what you're doing, it's very straightforward. You're just connecting the wires and using electrical tape and whatnot to make sure that they don't come undone and the weather can't get to it. So again, hope this was helpful for some of you guys, and that's pretty much it for this video. Hey y'all, thanks for watching this video and hanging out with us today. Hope this was helpful for some of you. If you like this video or other videos, please hit that like or subscribe button down below. If you'd like to see more of the things we talked about today, we've got unboxing videos of all the lights that we've installed. We've got an unboxing video for the brackets. If you'd like to see a closer look at those. We've also got an unboxing for the S-Tech pod, and we've got a video where we install the S-Tech pod. So if you're interested in those or want to get a closer look at each of those things that we've installed here, take a look at those videos. Thanks again for hanging out with us today. Until next time, take care.